Balmain Roselle be joined.
I'm aware from my work with young people and adults that there's only so long that people can listen passively, so I'll try to be brief but effective. Before I address the challenges that we face in the Glebe community, I'd like to talk briefly about my own personal background. I'm a lifelong member of the Balmain Roselle community, and I've worked previously with Colin at Glebe Youth Service and with young people, their families and communities from across the inner city. As a working class kid from Balmain, I've spent a lot of time in the public housing communities in my area, and I'm proud to say that the sense of inclusiveness and community spirit that Balmain has always been famous for is as alive and well today in those neighbourhoods as it has ever been. Nonetheless, I have also been witness to the tragedy that has afflicted the lives of a disproportionate number of the young people I grew up with. Many of the young people that I have known have ended their formal education at a disturbingly early age. A number have gone on to experience the desperate plight of addiction. And sadly, all too many have lost their lives through suicide, drug overdoses, and in police chases. Colin has already spoken about the relationship between social disadvantage and crime and safety issues, but it seems to me that we can't talk about crime in Glebe without also talking about housing in Glebe. I know there are many people here tonight who feel that the Howard government is responsible for many of the problems that we face in Australia today. And I'm here to make the argument that the Howard government's housing policy, or lack thereof, has been a major contributor to the social problems that we see in the Glebe community today. In its 12 years in office, the Howard government continually cut federal contributions to the Commonwealth States Housing Agreement. At a time of record federal tax revenues, the Howard government completely abrogated its responsibility to ensure the supply of housing at the bottom end of the market. By cutting $3 billion from the Commonwealth State Housing Agreement, the previous federal government severely limited the ability of state Labor governments to ensure the supply of public and community housing to low and middle income earners. Where there has been no money for new public housing to be built, inevitably the eligibility requirements for entry into public housing have been tightened. In New South Wales, this has resulted in public housing being seen and used as welfare housing or housing of last resort. In the past, public housing communities were socially diverse places where there was a healthy mix of professionals, tradespeople, low-income earners and pensioners. Today, the ever dwindling number of new places available has resulted in an ever-increasing concentration of disadvantage in communities like Glebe. It's clear that this trend has contributed significantly to the social problems that we see in Glebe today, and that includes crime and safety issues. In New South Wales, for example, the reshaping public housing policy is an example of how federal funding cuts have limited the ability of state Labor governments to provide community and public housing to their communities. Faced with an ever-shrinking pool of resources, the New South Wales government was forced into increasing rents for existing tenants, introducing limited tenure for new tenants, and charging market rents for tenants who gain full-time employment. This sort of policy will destroy the long-term viability and social diversity of public housing communities that Labor heroes like Ben Chifley and Tom Uren fought for. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is what we can do to repair the situation now. During the recent uproar about crime and safety in the Glebe community, there have been some who have argued that the cause of the problems in the Glebe community is the significant proportion of public housing that is located here. The logical conclusion of that sort of thinking is that we shouldn't build any more social or affordable housing stock in this community, or further still, that we should sell off or demolish the public housing that we have here at the moment. If we were to do that, the community dynamics in Glebe would certainly be more simplistic. the place would become the private enclave of the wealthy, and they wouldn't be disturbed by having to mix with any working class, poor or Aboriginal people at all. But we have to ask ourselves, who would pick up the garbage in the streets? Who would clean the homes and the businesses? Who would police the place? Who would work behind the bar at the Toxteth? In fact, the battle to ensure that working class people could find homes in inner city communities was fought and won 30 years ago by leaders like Tom Uren and Jack Mundy. The simple fact is that if we are to have sustainable and livable inner city communities, then we must increase, not decrease, our stock of social housing and key worker housing. I would argue that the solution to the social problem in Glebe lies not in further stratifying and dividing the community, but in bringing the community together. We have a group of young people here tonight who are from the youth mentoring program in Leichhardt Municipality. In a partnership between Leichhardt Council, the Department of Housing, TAFE Outreach and the Tigers, we've been training local young people as community mentors and peer educators. We're now at a stage in that program where young people are planning what they can do in their neighbourhoods, off their own bat, to contribute to their community. Some of the young people involved have suggested that they'd like to assist their elderly neighbours. At last week's training session, the group came to an agreement that they would like to put on an adolescent mental health forum and invite local young people and the wider community to attend. This is the sort of direction that the Glebe community also needs to head in. There's no reason that by training our local young people and building their capacity to solve their own problems and contribute to their local community, that we can't see similar results in the Glebe community. The likely next President of the United States of America is a radical black orator who made his name undertaking community development work in inner city communities not unlike this one. It seems to me that at such a time we shouldn't set any limits on what we can achieve together for the benefit of our community. As a community, we need to create opportunities for all of our residents to contribute their professional and life skills to the benefit of their local community. United, there is little we cannot do. Divided, there is little we can. By building a more sustainable mix of housing in this community and bringing the community together through a program of community development, we can do some important things. We can begin to address the social problems in our midst, and we can ensure that everyone can feel safe and secure in the Glebe community. Thank you very much.
Right, well, what an eclectic mix of speakers, and I hope you all enjoyed it. It was certainly different views and different approaches coming from all of them.